Do you know what controlled opposition means? Controlled opposition means basically to catch those who resist the mainstream strategies of containment. It's like creatures that are too smart for the frequently used traps. Well, they just build another type of trap for those creatures. But it's still a trap. There are a lot of people in the alternative scene who speak to things like UFOs, Anunnaki, galactic federations, who are frankly talking out of their ass. Now, they could be either rogue operators, ones who consider that it's a bit of a lark to get on this topic because it's very attention-worthy, or they could be agents on a mission to catch your attention, to feed you certain narratives, to take you down certain paths, to make it seem like they're giving you privileged information. You have to be very, very, very careful. This is an intense time of deception. Anybody who doesn't encourage you to go on your own independent explorations on a topic, be very cautious. Now, all right, let me take you back to a point in history. And again, I wasn't there, so I'm going to talk in generalities. Okay, I'm going to ask you to imagine a scenario of a boatload of European sailors who have come over in about the 1500s to the Americas. Now you can imagine them landing in North America or South America. Doesn't worry me. We're talking generalities. Okay, now there are already people living on those continents. There are already people living in the places where this European boat lands. And the two groups interact. The interaction may be positive, the interaction may be negative, the interaction may be beneficial to some groups of the resident people and not so beneficial to other groups who are living there. So what I'm trying to seed in your imagination is the idea that there are already going to be at least two sets of opinions about the, I want to say goodliness, okay, about the quality of the intention of that group of sailors who have landed from lands unknown, according to the residential people. And then the ship takes off again. And so what is left behind are narratives. Narratives of the events that happened while this ship was docked. Well, you're right, I don't know all the technical terms, just bear with me. But, okay, for the group who feel that the arrival of this ship and its crew was a good thing, in inverted commas, they're going to extrapolate that goodness to anybody else that comes from that destination, from Europe. They're going to teach their children that anybody who comes from that land, that mythic land far away, is going to be good. Whereas the other group who may have had conflicts with that crew, they're going to tell their descendants that everybody who comes from that land is bad. Be careful. They're evil. They're up to no good. don't trust them. Okay, now, I know it's a bit of a simplistic scenario, but isn't that what is happening when people speak about the Anunnaki? There have been some historical encounters. Some humans thought it was a good thing. Some humans thought it was a bad thing. Okay, these narratives perpetuate throughout history. Now, about the Anunnaki being reptilian, is it an automatic assumption? Is it an automatic assumption that reptilians are all bad? I mean, that's like saying all humans are bad, or all humans are good, depending on which side of the fence you sit on. Okay, and in my last video, I did speak about that I feel that innately humans are good and well-intentioned. And that's a broad brush stroke. And I'm going to allow for the possibility of some humans being born, or, coming into our realm, who may not have such good intentions. And I think it was Thomas Sheridan in one of his videos, and I do have a lot of time for Thomas Sheridan. Not all his stuff, but by and large, he's worth listening to. But he was saying, we have a taboo in our society of thinking that children are, of thinking that children cannot be evil, that children are all pure and good and light. And he challenged that taboo by recognizing that sometimes evil manifests in a particular body, and that body might be that of a child. So whether it's this, the soul, I'm not sure at what level to go to, whether to stay at personality and psychology, or whether to, go deeper into the spiritual realm, that there might be an evil entity possessing or manifesting as human. But what I'm saying is it's a mistake to categorically sweep an entire group with one brush and to not allow for variations or exceptions or outliers. And okay, back to the Anunnaki. I hold that they are administrators and scientists, they're bureaucrats, they're planners. So that was their role on this planet. Now, it seems to be a thing these days to resent anybody who's trying to shape culture as if it's a bad thing. I'll say yes, I would throw my hat in with the Anunnaki. I think by and large their mission is a positive one. That's not to say there might not be factions that work against each other. Politics, I think whenever you get any groups together, there's going to be a jockeying for power. There's going to be a jockeying for ideological, I don't want to say the word superiority, but to lead with a particular ideology over another one, just like we get, in elections, at least on the surface of it. Okay, you've got your factions that jockey for dominance. That's the word that I was looking for dominance. And those factions fluctuate. And I would consider that very similar to any other large groups of being. They are not a homogeneous group unless they're a hive group. And I don't think the Anunnaki are a hive group. Hive groups are where everybody is like everyone else. It's like, think of an ant's nest. Okay, yes, you've got your different groups, but within that group, okay, there is no individuality. They move as a mass. They move as a whole. But I don't think the Anunnaki are like that. So whenever you get a non-hive culture, there's going to be chaos. There's going to be that fluctuating agenda, or agendas, plural. Okay, and it may be that some interactions with some Anunnaki groups at some point in history were maybe heavy-handed, maybe full of conflict, whereas others were more benevolent. I mean, it's going to vary. It's like, look at all the different European encounters with indigenous people around the world. And yes, you can say there was a prevalence of a certain attitude which shaped many of the interactions. But there would have also been exceptions. There would have also been positive stories. Europeans who cared. Maybe indigenous folks who were just as bloodthirsty as the Europeans. And not only to the Europeans, but maybe to each other as well. And I think, we Europeans, we have a fantasy about, the peaceful, noble cultures, indigenous cultures that, in the heart were superior to our head-based culture. And that's, I think, a myth. There were some very, very savage encounters between indigenous peoples living on the same continent. What I'm just getting to is be really aware of sweeping statements given as fact, because that is only one sliver of information or one sliver of a perspective that has so many more variances than you can possibly imagine. So that sliver of information, that sliver of perspective, does not represent the whole. And you can say, well, wouldn't it be like a fractal situation? Well, that's a very convenient position to take if you want to keep validating your position. So quickly getting back to the Anunnaki agenda on this planet. You know from your own personal experiences that when some politician does something in your town, whether they rezone an area or whether they give a building approval for a high-rise or a shopping centre, there will always be people who say, oh, wow, what a wonderful thing. And there will always be the ones who say, what were they doing? This is terrible. It's going to ruin our society. It's going to ruin our community. Who are you going to listen to? Where's the truth? And be cautious. Just be cautious. Whose words you give authority to. They are talking out of their ass. Sorry. Especially if it's only based on words. I mean, you can understand, like getting back to this local community politics, if you're willing to listen to the other side's position, okay, you have an opportunity to build bridges of understanding. So you can empathize, and then you might be able to compromise. Okay, but while you're just so entrenched in your particular point of view that the Anunnaki are all bad and they're evil and they're manipulative, or on the flip side that they are, our saviors, that they are only here for, to do good things on this planet. My position is that, I think they're pretty self-serving. And that's not a bad thing. You can still see their game in action, particularly with the Alatra with the Alatra organization, movement, doesn't mean that they're not worth listening to. There's a lot of good things there, but then they just slip in occasionally something that doesn't gel. Well, at least it doesn't gel for me. And yeah, down the track I might talk a little bit more about that. But bottom line always is, does any particular information help you live a more moral life? So does it help you lift your game? Does it help you strengthen your character? Does that information make you more worthy of, redemption? No, I don't want to get biblical, but it's what I spoke of in another video about what you take away with you. If you take away unfinished business, if you take away solidified opinions and misconceptions and points of view, that momentum, that emotional momentum, that intellectual momentum continues with you. It becomes part of your energy, becomes wrapped in the field of you. That could be awkward. The field of you, not the field of view. Anyway, okay, be cautious, okay? All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you in another video. Ciao.